Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Random Shit. Random guy, as always, I'm your host, Phil, and I have a microphone that's wanting to fall over. Hopefully it don't. We shall see. Um, as you guys know, I was not here last week, and I do want to apologize for that. I had so much going on. I had to basically decide which was more important, podcasting or life. Excuse me. And sorry, I chose life. So, did have a lot going on last week, and I just wasn't able to put in the show that I would have wanted to have put in. It would have started way later than it needed to. This one had to start later as well. So it's like I'm trying to get back at the 8 o'clock schedule spot. Not positive. TBD, I may actually be moving things around next week as well. If I have to move it around next week, I will go on Friday or Wednesday night. So I'll let you know. Keep an eye out on the channel for more updates. I'm going to try and start doing some more 10-minute videos during the week to supplement for you guys. I do want to make sure to thank everybody who has already, and if you haven't already, like this page, like this video, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'm going to turn my headphones down because they're extremely loud. So like we have hit a number that is, we're growing fast, and I want to thank everybody who has taken the time to do that. We are currently at 573 subscribers. We are growing, like I said, all the time, and I want to thank everybody who is able to be a part of this channel. Like I said, if you haven't already, like the video, thumbs up always helps, goes a long way. More importantly, though, than the thumbs up, sharing the video helps a lot. So thank you for all of that. I love when people hop into the chat. So anybody who's on a live stream, make sure you say hello and let me know what you're thinking. This one's going to be a touchy subject podcast. I'm already going to tell you, some people might get upset, some people might not. I don't know what to say other than that because it's hard to. This one's going to be either you like the topic or you hate the topic. For the next 2 weeks, we are going to be talking a lot about UFC Freedom 250. But before we get into that, I wanted to kind of let you know what I've been up to for last week. A lot of work, but I did take off last Saturday. Not last Saturday. Let's see here. I went on, I think it was the 23rd of May, which has been since we've been here together. I went to Pineville, Kentucky, and hit up the Appalachian Mountain Wrestling Fair Tour. It was the first stop of the Fair Tour for the year, and I had a lot of fun. The fair shows are very different compared to what you would get on the pay-per-view shows or the big events. Like they're having a big event in Lexington, Kentucky on the 14th, the same day as the UFC White House card. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to miss it. But if you're in Lexington or you just don't give a shit about the UFC and want to see some good wrestling, Appalachian Mountain Wrestling is your spot. They're going to be at the Lexington Ice Rink on the 14th. They have Dolph Ziggler in the house taking on AMW champion Marty Clay. They also have Dick Christmas himself, Richard Holiday, is going to be in the house as well. So if you get a chance, make sure you stop by and say hello to all those people because it is always a good time to see a familiar face in the crowd. Like they do a great they do a great job on the shows. I don't know why that's doing that. So you go check them out. Other than that, not a lot been going on. But like I said, I did want to talk about that show a little bit. It was really fun. They put on like 6 matches. They went like an hour and a half. They opened the show with Marty versus his cousin, the prospector Wes Barker. If you guys keep an eye on the channel, you would know I've been posting a lot about Marty and Wes's rivalry. They are cousins who have turned on one another. Well, Wes turned on Marty because Marty's the champion and Wes wants to be the champion. And it ended their rivalry, or so we thought, in the cage at Bloody Breath It. And that made it 1-0, Marty over Wes. Well, on the tour, I don't know how many nights it's going to be similar, but the first night of the tour, you had Wes and Marty going 1-on-1 to open the show. What was fun about this show is it's like a smaller crowd. It's not really for television. They do tape it, and I'm sure they'll use it for like in between things for their showdown show or matches to hold them over until the pay-per-view or when they come back for the fall, I guess for the summer. And what's cool about these crowds is it's very one-on-one, kid-friendly Southern wrestling, or as they call it in Appalachian Mountain Wrestling, wrestling. Um, it's just interesting because it's like you get to see more of the guys interacting on an independent level because these guys are working the crowd, something you can't do on a bigger show. But when you're at a fair with like 200 people around the cage, not the cage, the ring, you get more of an intimate situation. And it's a lot of fun. The thing about fair shows is usually bring your own chair, so you got a lot of people standing very close together up against the barrier. So the heels have more things to talk about. They're very close to the fans. Like, it's not like when you're at a pay-per-view show where you have time. I mean, they do have times to hit because they want to get done for the day, but it's like if they miss their times, who gives a fuck? It's kind of like a house show. But yeah, it opened with Marty and Wes, and then they went to a tag team match. No, not a tag team match. Then they had Z Collins taking on one of the Mat Men. Not a huge fan of the Mat Men gimmick. If there's one thing I don't like, it's Southern wrestling trying to be luchadors. And they had a couple of them on the show, and that's just not my thing. Like, just because you put them under a hood doesn't mean you should. And I get it. You can kind of play on who's under the mask that way. If you don't have enough people, throw them under the hood. That's not my cup of tea, but it is part of what's going. It is part of the culture. Like, you do get people doing that. So either here nor there. I'm not, like I said, the biggest fan of using the hood as a regular thing, but it's Southern wrestling. Like, you're going to get somebody under a fucking mask, especially when they're fresh into their career. They'll put them under the hood or something like that. But yeah, and then you had Mad Taylor and his tag team partner taking on. I don't remember who. I don't even remember who they had their match with. But either way, it's neither here nor there. Fun show. You had Eddie Browning and Stan Sierra. It is what it is. Like, I don't want to be mean, but it's like Eddie's not for me. I don't get the same excitement of watching guys in their 60s wrestle. And that this may come off as an insult to people, and okay, I'm sorry. That's just my personal opinion. But I've rambled for 10 minutes on nothing, so let's get into the show. But like I said, before you do, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and come and tell your fucking friends that they need to follow this page. Let's get it to 1,000 subscribers before Labor Day. That's kind of where I'm shooting at. That is, we're in June, July, August, September, 3 months. If we can hit that number by then, I would be fucking ecstatic. If not, that's okay too. I'm way further ahead in the year than I thought I was going to be. But I need you guys to be watching and sharing, so that is just as important as following at this point. But yeah, we are going to start off the show with some UFC Freedom 250 talk. UFC Freedom 250 takes place at the White House in Washington, D.C. Not February, it'd be better, June 14th for Flag Day, which is the 15th. And it is a UFC event taking place on the president's birthday. Flag Day is the 14th. I'm sorry, I thought it was the 15th. Either way, the UFC is using it as saying that the 14th is when Flag Day is. That's the kickoff of the the America 250 experience. I don't know what they're fucking calling it. Celebration. And it should be a celebration. Like 250 years of our country should be a big fucking deal. But the way we stand currently in this country, where people can't pay their rent, people can't afford groceries, gas is high, we're at war, it's really hard to celebrate when things are so bad. And that's not a political stance, that's just a life stance. Like, it's hard to give a fuck about any holiday when bills are behind, or life's happening, because I mean it does. Life doesn't care if it's UFC, America 250, Christmas. It's still there. It's still it's gonna be doing what it's doing. You know what I mean? So it is. It's coming up fast, but let's talk a little bit about how we got to UFC Freedom 250 on the White House lawn. And this goes back several years. So Donald Trump has had a relationship with TKO. I'm going to call it TKO as a whole, because he had a very good relationship with the previous WWE regime. He still has a good relationship with the WWE regime. He has been friendly with the UFC prior to the UFC getting originally bought by the Fertittas, and once the Fertittas bought it and Dana White, he became even more friendly. The UFC was at the Taj Mahal. Anytime they needed a home and they couldn't find one, he was the guy. He helped them out for a while. And then once it come time for him to run for president, him and Dana got even closer. To the point where the first time President Trump ran in, let's see here, we're 2016? Because, no. In the 2020 election. Yeah, it was 2020. Either way, the first presidential run when he was the 45th president, Dana White spoke at the Republican National Convention, and the UFC wasn't as involved at that point. But once Trump's numbers started to decline, you started seeing Trump show up at UFC events. The first one being the BMF title match between Nate Diaz and... who did Nate take on? I'm doing this off the top of my head. Jorge Masvidal. The first bad motherfucker match. And Trump showed up and was cage side, and he kind of become a fixture around the UFC. The second term comes, it's time for election time. Trump starts showing up a little bit more, and then ultimately he doesn't win the election, but he has people there watching. You see him show up to fight cards with American Badass playing from Kid Rock. Like the relationship continues to grow. So you go from there. January 6th happens, and his numbers are down. He's lost the election. Dana spoke at the second convention, and numbers are in the fucking tank. So you have a president who just lost the election. He's rallied and caused the January 6th incident at the Capitol to happen, and he needs to redo his image. And where does he go? To the UFC. So Dana and Trump have been intertwined in this for a while. When Trump's numbers start to drop, he always shows up at a UFC event. When Trump is having trouble getting young voters, well, then they turn into basically using the UFC as a get out to vote place. An organization that originally was not very political, was not involved in stuff, and you did not see a lot of Donald Trump in the UFC prior to him running for president or needing to get higher in the polls. So the election happens. The third time Dana speaks at the... Not only does Dana speak at the third Republican National Convention, Dana introduces him a job that is usually held for the president's wife. So Dana White is the person who says, Donald fucking Trump, president, whatever. And Dana rallies hard. The fighters start getting behind him to the point where some fight gyms are holding rallies for Trump. And the UFC and Trump become one and the same. Trump wins, and within months of him winning, Dana White says, hey, we're going to hold a fight card on July 4th, 2026, for the 250th anniversary of our country. And this was talked about a while back. Like I said, this is a year in the making at this point. There was rumors Conor McGregor might come back and fight on this card. John Jones. Like, there's been rumors of this card for a long time. I've been talking about this card for a long fucking time. And we have had a steady... it's grown to be a bigger thing as we've went on and on and on, to the point where now it's here. We are 10 days away from the White House card. It's a great fucking card. Let me pull that up here. The thing about this card is no one is talking about the fights. This is the biggest UFC event in UFC history. This is bigger than 200. This is bigger than 100. This is bigger than 300. This is bigger than Ronda Rousey winning the title. This is bigger than Brock Lesnar winning the title. This is bigger than Conor McGregor becoming a double champ. This will get more eyes on it than any other card. It's free on Paramount Plus, so it's going to be... Or it's not free, but if you got Paramount Plus, you're getting it free. They just announced that in Canada, Paramount Plus is now a part of the package. So you are going to see a lot of people who has never watched a UFC card watch this one. Why? Because it's on the White House lawn. You're going to have MAGA tuning in. You're going to have the liberals tuning in. You're going to have the casual fan who's not watched the UFC in fucking 10 years because it is taking place on the White House lawn. This is the biggest news story because you got to think of it. You've got, when there's a fight, like this weekend, there's fights at the Apex. You'll have people talking about the UFC in the MMA world. And you might get it in the wrestling world. And I'm a hybrid there, so you're going to get it here. And then add a big fight feel to it. So let's say Conor McGregor. So you're going to have the small news MMA media. Then you're going to get the ESPNs. You're going to get the Fox Sports 1s. You're going to get the whatever news. Take all that shit and add the political media, and this is going to be the biggest talked about card and the biggest card in UFC history. And it's crazy to think that you have people talking about Trump, you have people talking about Dana White, you have people talking about the UFC, but you don't have anyone, including Dana White, talking about the fucking fighters on this card. They are selling those three letters, UFC, not Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje for the lightweight title. You do not have Alex Pereira versus Cyril Gane for the interim heavyweight title. You do not have people talking about Sean O'Malley versus Aheem Zabib. You do not have anyone talking about Josh Hokett versus Derek Lewis, or Mario Ruffy versus Michael Chandler, or Bo Nickel versus Kyle Dukakis, or Diego Lopez versus Steve Garcia. That's who this card should be about right now. But no, it's about the three letters UFC. It's kind of like when WrestleMania happened. You didn't hear about fucking CM Punk versus Roman Reigns. No, you heard about WWE. TKO does not give a fuck about the fighters. They do not give a fuck about the wrestlers. They only care about money, and this is their big money show. And they should be talking about the fighters who, without the fighters at the White House card, you have no White House card. But instead, they would rather talk about the actual company. Or, hey, the big media, I get it. They don't care about the fighters because they don't know the fighters. They just care, hey, there's an event happening at the White House. Let's talk about it. So the big media is going to be talking about things like that. But the UFC itself doesn't seem to care about the fighters, to the point where now you have the only male UFC champion in Sean Strickland, who just won the title last month, and he is not invited to the White House. Now, did he do this to himself? Possibly. But if we are a company who is like, hey, free speech, say what you want, be who you are. That's what Dana sold his company on for years. It was be who you are, be the fighter that you want to be, say what you want, be the character that you are. But now you have the only male UFC champion in Sean Strickland who is not allowed at the White House. Let's hear what Sean has to say about that. We have a video that I'm going to play right here from, if I can get it open, share screen. This is a video from Sean Strickland's YouTube channel, not YouTube channel, Twitter. And this is what he had to say. I'm going to mute my mic so that you can hear that a little bit better. Let's see, unmute that one.
Well, you guys, I'm not surprised, but I got the call. I got the call. The UFC higher-ups called me, the big names. They said, Sean, I got to apologize, but you're not Israeli enough to go to UFC 250 Israel edition. The White House didn't clear you. And I'm not really surprised, I'm not really surprised. So, I think moving forward, I would like to just apologize to Israel. I'd like to say I'm sorry, I'd like to apologize to Trump, and I just want to prove that I'm Israeli enough for you guys. Like, for instance, whenever the list disappeared and Trump goes out there and says to everybody that he can't really go into it because people that by association will get prosecuted and their names will be tarnished. I want to apologize because I don't want them to be prosecuted. Or when Trump goes and bombs the fuck out of Iran that no Americans agree with, that cost Americans $5,000 to $15,000 to go fight Israel's war. I want to apologize. Sorry, I've been a critic of that. My allegiance was apparently in the wrong place, and I just want to apologize. Or when Trump goes out there and says, hey, Trump, your approval ratings are the lowest it's ever been across all demographics. And Trump says, well, you know what? I have a 99% approval rate in Israel. I want to apologize and I want to repent. Apparently, I'm not American enough to go to Freedom 250. But I still got my ticket. So maybe we'll just go. I'll bring the bell and we'll just stand outside the gate and we'll just let them know what we really think about Trump and Israel,
So that is UFC middleweight champion Sean Strickland talking about why he shouldn't or should be at the UFC Freedom 250 card. And it's kind of weird to me. You have two U.S. champions in the company. one of which is male Sean Strickland. And yeah, he has said some controversial shit. He's very anti Israel. He's very anti war. Like, he's said all this shit.
Wait,
And it
guys,
started
I'm not
a.
surprised, but I got the
Sorry.
call. I got the call. I got the call.
Um, Sorry about that. The video started playing again. Yeah, he's very anti-Israel. He's very anti-war. He's also anti some things Trump agree with, but ultimately, it's like they don't want him there. And this is a White House call, most likely, not a call from the UFC. But you have, like I said, you have two UFC champions, Sean Strickland and Kayla Harris. And you would think they would invite Kayla Harris, but I'm starting to think they're not going to invite any fighters to this show. Originally, everyone thought Kayla Harrison would be fighting on this card. She is the bantamweight champion. We thought she would be fighting actually before this card and fighting Amanda Nunes, but she has a severe neck injury, which has put her out for a while. She had to have surgery in January, and they rescheduled the fight, but she is yet to return. So who knows when Amanda Harrison will be back, but like, you have two people from the US who could represent this card, and they're not doing it. And one of them is not invited because they pissed Trump off. And this is all of a sudden, like I said, this is Trump's birthday party. Say what the fuck you want. This is not a Freedom 250 event. America 250 event, because it's taking place on purpose on a Sunday on June 14th for President Trump's birthday. Now, he can call it whatever the fuck he wants, but this is the 80th birthday party for Trump on the South Lawn. And this event has gained so much like talk. You have a who's guest list being invited to this thing, but not fighters that would want to be there. You would think you would want to use this event. Like I said, it's the biggest event most likely in UFC history on television. You would think you would want your fighters to be there to help promote this fucking thing. Now, yes, you're going to have fighters at the Ellipse, and most likely they're going to throw them out there, but they're not going to have them cage side. But they have invited several big name celebrities, including Tom Brady, Jason Statham, Jared Leto, TKO board member Dwayne The Rock Johnson. They've also invited Guy Ritchie. They invited Adam Sandler and Mario Lopez, who both declined because Lopez is filming a show and Adam Sandler just said no. Now, I would suspect Mario Lopez would have been there. He's a huge UFC fan, so it makes sense. And, Jared Leto's a huge UFC fan. Tom Brady is, I think, part of TKO, but we don't know that. And, The Rock is a board member for TKO, so of course he's getting an invite. Some people think Aiden Ross will be there, but he said no. So you have a lot of big name celebrities invited to this event. They've also invited, there is 4,300 tickets getting distributed for this event, with at least 1,200 of these are going to be given to soldiers. And normally this would be great. I think the military should be involved in these cards. I think the military is the biggest reason this event should even be happening, especially for UFC Freedom 250, if that's what they want this to be. And that clearly is what they're acting like they want it to be. So the military should be first and foremost. I remember when I first started getting into the UFC, they used to do UFC troops for the troops on those fight night cards, and they would literally go into a military base, Nobody's in the crowd except for the military, and those guys would have a fucking ball. You would see them in their camo, and they would just be having a fucking blast, man. Like they would love it. But this administration doesn't want them to really have fun. They want the soldiers there for props. They want them there as chess pieces. They want them there to look good. And why I say that is the military under Donald Trump and under the director of war, ugh, um, sorry, his name's fucking the Secretary of War. What the fuck is that asshole's name? Pete Hegseth. Fuck. Pete Hegseth want model versions of the military, and they are giving out 1,200 seats. Now they sent this to the Pentagon for them to distribute the tickets. And here's how you people in the military could have got one. It was invite only. They had to be active members of the military, and they had to meet height and weight requirements to the point where several military Facebook pages have put out no fatties at the UFC White House event. They don't want anybody big. They don't want anybody who doesn't look like a fucking model there. They want, people that's of the right height and weight requirements. The U.S. military personnel who does come to this fight must pay their own way, and they are inviting people from outside the Washington, D.C. area because they would love to have, the UFC would like to have junior enlisted and junior officers who are genuine UFC fans. Family members aren't invited, which normally they would be, and they must attend in, I forgot what, it's their military casual outfit, which is their short sleeved button ups and all that shit. They must meet the height and weight requirements of 55.55, which means if you have a waist, your waist must be 55% less than your total height. I don't know what the fuck that means, other than the fact that they don't want fat people there. I'm not welcome, which I mean, I'm not in the fucking military, but like people like me, not welcome. People who is a little bit out of shape, not welcome. It's funny because Pete Hegseth, not exactly the smallest guy. You're definitely making sure people like Pete Hegseth would not have been eligible for this, as someone who was just in the National Guard and most likely probably didn't meet the weight requirements then because he didn't stay in there very long. It's crazy because like you had the opportunity to have this thing full of the fucking military. Like I would have done 2,000 of the 4,000 seats in the military. I would have had all the Walter Reed, anybody from Walter Reed who wanted to be there, they'd be there. I would have the fucking injured soldiers right up fucking front, having a fucking blast. I would have soldiers on the cage. I would have their family there as well, because as much as we hate to say it, someone in the military family is just as involved as someone who isn't in the military because their family's gone. The wife and kids are away from their family. This is a way to have them celebrate what should be a celebration of our country and not President Donald J. Trump. It should be a huge event for them. But the president would like to make sure there's no fatties there because, fuck them. More that's come out about this event is, this does take place on June 14th, and the claw, which is the lighting grid in front of the White House. Trump is fucking trolling people right now and saying that he would love to have this there permanently. He's like, let's have the claw there forever. And he's fucking insane. Like he's lost his goddamn mind. they're expecting over 100,000 people to be involved in the fan event, which takes place in the Ellipse. They just started refilling the um, reflection pool because they got to have it full for the weigh-ins, because the weigh-ins are going to be take place at the Lincoln Memorial. So they want that ready to go. So you have so much going on involving this, and like you've got fighters again. You have fighters like Sean Strickland, who's anti-Trump but wanted to be there. You've got Joe Rogan, who's called to be like, hey, this shouldn't happen outside. And I don't want to sound like, okay, if this was for the America like it should be, I would be all for this. And honestly, I think the setting at the White House is going to be cool as shit. I think it's going to be fucking cool seeing fighters come out of the Oval Office, which is where they're saying they're going to walk from. All these things are cool. It's just the situation around it. And that's why I am going to choose to talk about the fighters from here on out with this card outside of this podcast. I'm going to be watching it, live streaming it. Now, will I talk about the Oompa Loompa from time to time? Probably. This shouldn't be political, but it is. There's no way around it. Like, this is a reward to the UFC for them playing ball and getting Trump reelected. That's what this event is. Call a spade a spade. So that's what this is. Now, outside of this is also an opportunity for Donald Trump to make some money. Reports come out that earlier this year, Donald Trump, who is a WWE Hall of Famer, has bought between $15,000 and $50,000 worth of TKO stock on March the 25th. This was going in. This comes from Trump's financial disclosure filings, which is required to do on May the 12th. So before WrestleMania of this year and before the biggest card on the White House, Donald Trump has bought stock into TKO. This is insider trading if I ever fucking saw it, and it's gonna always be that way. Like I said, Trump is the fact that you have someone like Trump buying stock in this event, that's knowing it's going to hit its peak. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if he sells all this stock off before June, because this is going to cause UFC stock to rise. You have, huge parts of this. Like, the WWE is just as ingrained as the UFC is in the Trump administration. You have Dana White and Trump being best friends. You have Linda McMahon as the education director. You have Triple H on the health and fitness board. You've had so many people, in the words of Mick Foley, taking Stone Cold Stunners in the White House that he even left the damn company and went to AEW. So it's interesting to see that at its biggest point is the time that he decided to buy into the stock, knowing, hey, my birthday party's coming up. People's going to watch this. So it's wrong. It's insider trading. It's not the first time he's done it. His stock with Dell has gone through the fucking roof. Like, he bought all this stuff. He bought Dell stock a month before he announced that, hey, we're using all Dell stuff in the Pentagon, and stock fucking rose, and he bought that before it rose, so they buy low, sell high. He's corrupt. We've got a war going on and a birthday party to celebrate on the fucking White House lawn. Anyway, let's talk about something fun. We've went 40 minutes of doom and gloom. Let's talk about what I think was one of the most special WWE matches I've seen in a long time. And that wasn't even really a WWE match. It was a AAA match. as you had Mask versus Mask, El Grande Americano versus El Grande Americano OG, where you had Chad Gable versus Ludwig Kaiser in a Mask versus Mask match that was a love story to Lucha Libre. You had the love that Ludwig Kaiser gets as El Grande Americano is so insane. To the point where I don't think you'll ever actually see Ludwig Kaiser again. It's just going to be El Grande Americano. To the point where I can't wait for El Grande Americano versus Dominic Mysterio. And Dominic's a babyface over there, but he's going to be a fucking heel on that one. Um, it was a special match. You had so many people get involved. Like, leading up to it, you had a blind comic get attacked by Gable, and which led to Kaiser's girlfriend being fired from the company. You had they weren't allowed to touch each other, and then finally all hell breaks loose on the episode before. And once that happens, you have the new commissioner, Rey Mysterio, say, "Hey, we're doing this. This is too important to Mexico." Then you have parties for El Grande Americano all across the country, where in Mexico City and in Monterrey, the fans are literally singing and celebrating El Grande Americano. And it's so fucking cool to see. And then we get to the match, and all the matches leading up to the Mask versus match was fucking great. Other than the tag match, that kind of sucked. Other than the tag match, great matches. The first of the night, I think, was the Dr. Wagner versus Vikingo, and Vikingo won the Latin American title. Let's see if I can get that card up. Mask versus Mask card. I meant to have this open and didn't. Let's see. You had Ray Phoenix defeat Laredo Kid to become the cruiserweight title, the AAA cruiserweight champion. That match was fucking amazing. Like, I have been a huge Ray Phoenix fan for a long fucking time. Like, going back to TNA days, or I loved him in WWE, and I thought he is the fucking future. But then when they brought him into WWE, they took the Ray off the Phoenix because you got a Ray already. And you brought in him and Penta at different times, and Penta was already over, so you kind of just took the Lucha Brothers out of the scenario, because Penta was over so much on his own to the point where he became the Intercontinental champion. And anyways, Ray Phoenix defeated Laredo Kid in a fucking beautiful match. The Latin American Championship, which I was talking about a minute ago, El Hingo del Vikingo defeated Dr. Wagner Jr., and then you had the War Raiders defeat Panego and Psycho Clown, where Panego turns on Psycho Clown. And it was a great night of Lucha Libre. And it ended with original El Grande Americano being masked as Chad Gable in a 30-minute match they were both covered in blood. Fucking Gable was like bleeding blood so much it was like squirting out of his fucking face when he was doing the interview. And the fans like loved him, and he's been over like crazy as a heel. And it's sad to see that these two guys can get over so much in Mexico, but when it comes to America, Chad Gable is going to become a fucking joke again. And if Triple H is smart, he's not going to let that happen. He's going to celebrate the fact that, hey, this guy put in a lot of fucking work off of what was supposed to be a fucking joke. And he put on this beautiful match with El Grande Americano. And then he hands him the mask. And like when Gable gives the original mask to um, El Grande Americano as if it was a title belt, it was just so fucking. I mean, it was special, man. It was one of those moments. To me, that was better than Punk versus Reigns at WrestleMania. Like that 30-minute match, that whole card was better than WrestleMania as a whole, and that's sad that I'm saying that. But to me, that's how much I liked that card. I don't have a lot of WWE talk. Let's get into AEW. But before we do, I want to remind everybody, if you've made it this far, like the video, subscribe, share, give us hot points, comment. Comments are important. Say hello or hey, I like this or whatever the fuck you want. Just comment under the video. I will respond. Say, hey, I hate you talking politics. Okay, put it down there. We'll talk about it. Anyway, AEW last night. Since we've been gone from one another, we had AEW Double or Nothing happen, and that card was fucking sick. The crowd in New York was in fucking insane for the on that card, and you had so many good matches. Now, in my opinion, the match of the night was sorry. Takeshita defeating Okada for the international title. I was a huge fan of the. Let's see, what was the other one I really liked? I really liked the Cope and Christian versus FTR match. So the show started off with a fucking banger after banger. The kind of low match on the card for me was Moxley defeating O'Reilly, which I think wouldn't have been that big of a deal had that not just fucking happened like days before. Swerve Strickland and Bandito was fucking awesome. This year's Stadium Stampede was probably my least favorite of all of them. And then you had MJF defeat Darby Allin for the fucking title. Like, special card. And then you had the return of Mick Foley. That was chef's kiss. Like, I thought Mick was just going to show up, introduce the show. But no, he cuts a fucking promo before the show starts with Max and Darby. And it was so damn good. And what's crazy about it is you had Mick Foley one-on-one, takes a bump in the ring, lands on his ass, but keeps on going. And WrestleVotes through FightfulSelect.com has said that Mick Foley has been cleared for another match and most likely will have another match if Tony Khan and Mick Foley want to do it in AEW. And that's insane to me. The fact that a 60-year-old man just got cleared, and I just talked about earlier how I'm not a huge fan of it. Not like my thing with Mick Foley is he's already said on Ariel Helwani's podcast that if he gets hit, he can't be hit in the head. But anywhere below the neck is fine, and he would like to have a cinematic match if they were going to do one. But cinematic matches kind of aren't over anymore. So I don't really see Mick Foley being involved in a cinematic match. I don't know what kind of match Mick would have. But the fact that he's been cleared for one says most likely there'll probably be one. I mean, we know Tony Khan likes to have his legends in the ring if possible. I mean, look at the run for Sting and how long that lasted. That was supposed to be a one-off, and then it become a whole thing to where Sting had his retirement match in AEW. I don't really need to see another Mick Foley retirement match because we've seen like 6 of them. But I just kind of want to see Mick there. I wouldn't mind seeing him. He's calling himself the Swiss Army knife of AEW, and that's true. He can be on commentary. He can open the shows. He can cut promos. He can go sell for press before the show. Like, there's a lot Mick Foley can do for you if you're AEW. But do you really have to put him in a match? You don't. And part of me says no. Let's stay away from that. And then part of me is like, hey, if Mick wants to have his last match, let Mick have his last match. So it's tough. It's a weird area. So I'm gonna kind of leave that one up to AEW and Mick. I don't need to see another Mick Foley match. I don't really want to see another Mick Foley match. I know Max wants to have one. MJF would love to have a moment with Mick Foley. If they do, it'll be in New York, probably at World's End, something like that. But you don't need it. Some other AEW news. At the end of the pay-per-view, you have Max defeat Darby Allin. And once Darby is beaten to a pulp, they put him on a stretcher. And then Max attacks him on the stretcher. And you think someone is coming to save Darby. And that person who comes through the curtain is Kevin Knott, the TBS champion. And he is over like Rover, man. Like, he comes out and ends up attacking Darby Allin and turning heel. Then he grabs the mic the next week and he cuts an awesome promo. And you think, fuck yeah, another heel champion is going to be on the run and moving forward. And then Tony Khan just kind of slams on the brakes and is like, no, we're not doing that, because Kevin Knight is officially a part of the Don Callis family. And I get it. I don't get it. It's like, you don't need 30 fucking members of the Don Callis family. You lost to Keshna. You're getting ready to lose Andrade. And you're selling to Kevin Knight, hey, I'm going to make you champ, double champ. And it's like, that's not going to happen. If anything, you're going to have Kevin Knight get turned on and Kyle Fletcher take back his TNT title. Like, you just put a hat on a hat. You just took a hot heel and cooled him down. You just killed any momentum that you just made off the pay-per-view with Kevin Knight by putting him in the Don Callis family. You're not... If you want young talent to thrive, you have to give them a shot. Give them the microphone. Give them a shot to do it on their fucking own. Not just put him in the most hated heel group because you know he's going to get booed. Is he getting booed? Is the Don Callis family getting booed, or is Don Callis getting booed? Don Callis is over. Like, he's fucking hot as shit last year. Hell, that whole group won so many damn awards at Fightful that they basically had to combine them into one. Like, and there's so many members of the Don Callis family that it's such a big faction that when you add more to it and you add someone as hot as hot and as over as the Jet is right now, that you kind of ruin that. I mean, you had a huge match on that people wanted to see on the pay-per-view, but they put it on television, which is even better, between Kevin Knight and Hung Kung Fui, as I like to call him, or what is his name? Like, that's how little I like him, and people love him. Jet Speed. Tag team. Mike Bailey. Speedball Mike Bailey. Fuck, I can't believe I always forget his name, because to me he's Hung Kung Fui. Like, I'm not a fan of him, but you had the breaking of a tag team that would have been huge. But instead you're like, no, we're just going to have this match, then we're going to have the Don Callis family get involved in it so that you don't have something special. And that's how I took this card. I wasn't a huge fan of it. Him turning. I mean, I didn't care about Kevin not turning. Like, that was cool. But I wasn't a fan of him joining the Don Callis family and him already needing help to defeat someone like Speedball's over, but he's his fucking tag team partner. So like that match should have been special. That should have been huge, and instead you get outside interference. Um, yeah, Kevin Knight does not need Don Callis. No one needs Don Callis really, but Kevin Knight just not. He's fucking over, and they should just let him be over. Speaking of somebody who's over, Mercedes Monet made her return as the wild card in the Owen Hart tournament, replacing Willow Nightingale after Willow got injured I guess it was about a month ago, right before the pay per view. And Willow is no longer the TBS champion, which they're going to be doing some kind of eliminator for that. And Mercedes is back. And you have Mercedes defeating. Fuck. Dynamite results. Sorry. I'm drawing a fucking blank here, and this is yeah, Mercedes come back, and then she defeated. Her name's right in front of me, and I cannot think of it. Alex Windsor. God damn, I'm stupid. My head is just like not here right now. Yeah, she comes back, defeats Alex Windsor in a great match. Her and Windsor have been going at it for a while. Like originally, she beat Windsor for the Rev Pro title, and then Windsor beat her for the Rev Pro title. I want to say they had a match in New Japan prior to both of them coming to to AEW. So Mercedes looked good. This is the first match she's had since December. She took like 6 months off, and she's got no ring rust at all. It looks like she just kept on going. I think they're gonna have to turn her babyface. I think you're gonna get a really fun title match when she becomes the first back-to-back Owen Hart winner. I think that's definitely gonna happen, and I think you're gonna have Mercedes Moné versus Tekla at Wembley, where Mercedes becomes the champion. By that time, I think they're gonna have her as a babyface. The fucking crowd went crazy, like the CEO chant and not booing her. Like the last time we saw her, she was getting the fuck booed out of her, and not because like they didn't want to see her, but because she was just such a heel. And now she's back without changing anything. They did change her music, but now she's a babyface just because she's gone. And what's old is new again. And I would love to see. They needed this. Like you lost Tony Storm, you lost Willow Nightingale, your two biggest baby faces in the company as women. You got to replace them, and the best way to do it, Mercedes Moné turning babyface against Tekla. I think eventually Tekla is going to turn babyface as well because she's so fucking over. Like, she's cool as fuck. Like, she's climbing ladders just to spit on the Stardom label. Like, she's a cool badass heel, but she could easily turn babyface and it not be that big a deal. Like I could see the Triangle of Madness becoming a babyface team out of nowhere, just because people like her so much. And it's not like when Max was a heel. Max is loved as a heel. Max was loved as a babyface, but they love him more as a heel. I think Tekla, they're gonna love to cheer her, so she'll be more of a babyface once Tekla does turn to the babyface side. But yeah, Mercedes is back, and that is fucking great. Like, they needed her. The women's division is. I forgot the Divine Dominion even had the fucking women's tag titles for a while, because they're never on the show, and when they are, it's against fucking jobbers, because they're holding the titles long enough for Windsor and yes, Windsor. Thank you. Yeah, Divine Dominion is holding the titles long enough for Windsor and Jamie Hayter to get them at All In. Like that's what's going to happen. So it's like, at what point do you forget about them? because there's nothing really happening. It's the same shit over and over, and you've got 3 more months till you can put the title on her, and then from there you've got no TBS champion at the moment. I don't know who you're going to put that title on because there's not really a female right now that people give a shit about enough. You have too many heel champions, so you can't really do that. I could see them putting it on somebody like um I don't even know. Like they could do it they could put it back on Statlander, but who cares? Statlander wasn't able to, to sell as Mina Shirakawa maybe. Um you could have someone come back. Like I wouldn't mind seeing a return of Ruby Soho. That would, I mean, she's been cleared to return. I think she was originally supposed to return as part of that return. The people who was coming back and getting defeated by Willow. Um, we're not going to see Britt Baker, even though she would be, a good one. Definitely, but she would have to be a heel, so you don't really need that. I don't know. I don't know who should be the women's TBS. Maybe Harley Cameron. Harley has worked her ass off and she keeps getting better, but I don't know. And it's gonna be like an eliminator match. It's like 6 people in the same night, and then they're gonna. I'm glad they're not doing a fucking tournament. Like that's one thing. Like we got too many fucking tournaments, and we don't need to see more of that. But yeah, I don't know who you put the TBS title on. Like I said, the women's it all other titles like I see all in already, and it's like how do we get there? Like in my eyes I see Cope and Christian TLC match, probably the Bucks and New Day. Like that's how I see that one going down. And then I see Max or Kenny because I think there's a good opportunity in July at that Canadian pay per view. Max drops the title to Kenny, and Kenny hands over the title to Omega. I mean, yeah, Kenny hands it to Omega. Kenny hands it to Osprey at All In Wembley. Like I could see that happening. The international title, who gives a fuck? Like, I don't care. It shouldn't exist anymore. But I think if you're going to have that one be a big one, I still think you're going to have Takeshita possibly rematch with Okada there. But that's like 2 months away. So how do you get there? You could also have Takeshita versus. I wouldn't mind seeing Takeshita versus Kyle Fletcher at that one either. That would be a fucking banger. What other titles we got? The national title. Look, let's just do it. We got too many goddamn titles. I don't even see the national title being something anybody cares about enough to be on All In, but if it is, it's going to be on the Under Show. We still have trios titles that nobody gives a fuck about. Like, the conglomeration has the trios titles, but who cares? So, I don't know. Like, that's a title. That's a mid-card title at best. I don't give a fuck. Like, you could tell me tomorrow that they done away. Well, one, I would be fucking excited. But like, you could say that they were doing away with the trios title. Like, if it was up to me, you would have 4 titles. You would have for the men. You would have the tag titles. Or it wouldn't even be 4. Really, it'd be 3. The tag titles, the championship, the TNT, and that's really all you need. If you got to have a 4th, it's the international. The women's side, you have tag titles now. Divine Dominion is going to take on the Brawling Birds. Brawling Birds is going to win that in August at Wembley when Windsor gets the title. Windsor and Hayter gets the title there because Jamie Hayter didn't get her moment because she got hurt before the first Wembley show. I really think Kenny's going to hand the title to Osprey because there's one year having a card in Canada. You didn't give the card to give it to Kenny yet. I think that's a way that you kind of avoid Max and um, Kenny for what shit. I forgot about John Moxley's title. Like that one shouldn't exist either. The Continental title. But yeah, and then women's Tekla versus Mone. Who who knows when it comes to the TBS title? Like I said, I could see that thing bouncing 5 or 6 times before we get to All In. I don't know. But I've got one more topic before we leave, and this one has nothing to do with professional wrestling, but has to do with real amateur wrestling. And that is the return of Ben Askren. And here's maybe thinking, well, didn't he just have a double lung replacement? He sure as fuck did. Ben Askren is going to make his wrestling return at Real American Freestyle 11 in his hometown on his birthday, July 18th in, I think it's in Milwaukee. He's going to be taking on Bilal Muhammad, who is a former UFC champion, I believe. He's actually fighting this Saturday at the UFC Apex. And this is a big match for somebody who is coming back off a double lung replacement and was in a coma for a long fucking time. But this is something that Ben Askren just wants to do. And he says this will be the last match. He had a near death less than a year ago. He had double lung replacement because of pneumonia. Something that he said if his wife wasn't on the road with him at the hotel, he would have died from. He is on certain medication that makes it very, very likely that an infection could kill him. He can't even be around his kids when they're sick. He's back in the wrestling room, but tells his guys, "Hey, if you're sick, stay the fuck away. Let me know." But this will be a huge comeback story. And I think that's why he wants to do it. Like less than a year out, his doctor said, should you do it? But then they were basically like, you can go do they have like the Special Olympics, but for lung repairs. And they're like, go do those games. And he's like, I don't want to do that. He goes, you're going to let me run, but you're not going to let me wrestle. And finally he talked his doctor into letting him do it. So you're going to see the return of Ben Askren for the final time on the mat, leaving his boots in the circle after nearly dying. Like it's scary as fuck to think that something as simple as a cold can kill him, but he's coming back to be in an arena in one of the dirtiest. Like they better clean the fuck out of those mats, because if he gets a staph infection, he could fucking die. Like that's how serious it is. But he says he's healthy and he's ready to go. He wants to wrestle somebody good. That's why he handpicked Bilal Muhammad for this. Like I said, Bilal Muhammad is a former UFC champion. This isn't an MMA match. This isn't boxing. This is straight up Greco wrestling. And will he win? Who knows? I mean, you normally go out on your back, right? But at least he's going out with somebody that he wants, to have one last match with. And it's somebody I believe they were supposed to have a match before now. So good. What a comeback story. Like I've never watched Real American Freestyle because I don't really get into grappling like that. Like I like to watch grappling as a part of MMA. I like to watch jiu-jitsu as a part of MMA, but I can't say that I could sit and watch just a straight up jiu-jitsu tournament on television. Like I don't think I would give a shit. I might would, like especially some of the like the Eddie Bravo style jiu-jitsu tournaments where no gi and You can throw some elbows and shit in there with it. But as far as like, I don't think I could sit and watch some grappling, but I will be watching this one. It's July 18th on the Fox something network. I don't even know where the real American freestyle even takes place. I just know it used to be owned by Hulk Hogan, and it is now ran by Eric Bischoff. So yeah, but that's what I got for you guys. This one ran a little long. This one was probably pretty controversial. If you made it this far, thank you. And if you aren't already, like this video, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know when we're live again. Like I said, I may not be here next week on Thursday, and I will let you guys know ahead of time. The reason I might not be here is AEW is going to be like 3 hours from me, and I may be driving to Cincinnati. So if I'm not here next Thursday, it's because I'm in Cincinnati for Collision. But if I'm not at Collision, we'll be here, and I will know probably by Tuesday whether I'm going or not. So keep an eye out for me. I'll let you guys know. You will know something by Tuesday. Keep an eye on the socials, Facebook, Twitter, all that shit. We are at RSRG Podcast. We're on Instagram, TikTok, and X at RSRG Podcast. If you look RSRG Entertainment, that's where we are on Facebook. So thank you guys for watching. Please join the comment section. Let me know what you think. Am I being too hard on the UFC White House card? Am I digging too much into this Donald Trump story? Should Sean Strickland be allowed to go to the fights? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm open to having a conversation with you. I don't want this to become like MAGA versus liberal bullshit, but this card is definitely political. So that's all we got. I hope you guys enjoy what we've talked about so far, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace.